Captain Alex Graves had never seen anything like it before. The planet below him was unlike any world he had ever encountered, even in his most adventurous dreams. He stood on the edge of the observation deck of his ship, the Celestial Voyager, watching as the planet slowly came into view. It was a dark blue and green world, covered in vast oceans and thick forests. The signal he had tracked across deep space had led him here, a distant planet on the very edge of the galaxy. No human had ever set foot here before. His mission was simple: investigate the signal, find out who or what was sending it, and report back. The silence in the cockpit was almost oppressive as Alex maneuvered the ship toward the planet. His hands worked instinctively, controlling the ship's descent through the atmosphere. He had trained for years to be a pilot, but no amount of training could have prepared him for this moment. He was about to make first contact with an alien civilization, a species no one knew existed. He could feel his heart pounding in his chest as he prepared for landing. The Celestial Voyager touched down on the planet's surface with a soft thud, kicking up a small cloud of dust as it settled in the center of a wide, grassy field. Alex didn't waste any time. He grabbed his equipment, a small comm device, a plasma pistol for protection, and a translator module. Before exiting the ship, he stepped onto the foreign world with a mixture of awe and caution. The air smelled different, fresh and almost metallic. The sky overhead was a pale, alien blue, and strange bird-like creatures could be seen flying high above. The landscape stretched out before him in an endless expanse of rolling hills and dense forests, all bathed in an unfamiliar light. Alex couldn't help but be amazed. He had read about alien worlds, seen pictures of far-off planets, but this felt real. He was standing on an alien world, and that thought filled him with both excitement and dread. He wasn't just making history. He was setting foot in the unknown. His communicator buzzed in his pocket, breaking him out of his reverie. It was a message from his commanding officer back on Earth, ordering him to proceed cautiously and avoid any potential danger. He read the message quickly, his heart racing. But Alex had always been the type to take risks, to push beyond what was expected. He wasn't about to turn back now. Following the coordinates from the signal, Alex began his trek into the forest. The trees here were unlike any he had seen before, their bark black and twisted, with glowing blue veins running through them. The further he walked, the more he felt like he was being watched. It wasn't just the wildlife that seemed curious about him. There was something else in the air, something far more intelligent. After hours of walking, Alex finally came to a clearing. In the center stood a massive structure, something far more advanced than anything he had ever seen. It was an enormous palace made of shimmering silver metal, rising up into the sky. There were no visible doors or windows, only smooth surfaces that seemed to shimmer in the light. It was both beautiful and intimidating, like a monument to some long-forgotten civilization. As Alex approached the structure, a figure appeared from behind the shadows. She was tall, almost impossibly tall, with long flowing hair that shimmered like liquid silver. Her skin was a deep violet, and her eyes glowed with an ethereal light. She stood in front of him, her presence commanding and powerful, and Alex felt a chill run down his spine. The figure was an alien, and yet she didn't seem hostile. She wasn't the terrifying monster Alex had expected. Instead, she exuded an air of quiet dignity. Her eyes locked onto his, and for a moment, Alex was unable to speak. She was beautiful in an otherworldly way, but there was something more to her, something deeper. She seemed ancient, wise, and powerful. "I am Queen Zelira of the Zelkarn," the alien woman spoke, her voice soft but filled with authority. Her words were understandable, as if the translator device in Alex's ear had somehow made her speech clear. "You are the one who answered our call." Alex blinked, still processing the shock of meeting an actual alien. I didn't know who or what was sending the signal," he stammered. "I'm Captain Alex Graves, United Earth Forces. I came to investigate." Zelira's eyes seemed to soften, and she tilted her head slightly. "You came to investigate," she repeated. "But you have come at a time when your species is both a threat and a savior to the galaxy." Alex raised an eyebrow, unsure of what she meant. "A threat? How could we be a threat? You do not understand yet, but you will," Zalira replied cryptically. "Come with me." She turned and began walking towards the palace, her movements graceful and fluid. Alex hesitated for only a moment before following her, feeling an undeniable pull to learn more about the strange alien civilization and the mystery that had brought him here. His mission had just taken an unexpected turn, and he wasn't sure what would happen next, but he knew one thing for sure. The galaxy was about to change. Inside the palace, the air was cool, and the walls seemed to pulse with a soft bluish light. There were no visible windows, but the light was constant, illuminating the space with a calming glow. Zalira led Alex into a grand hall, where the floor was made of smooth stone, and intricate alien symbols adorned the walls. It was a place of ancient power and knowledge. "Your people," Zalira began, "are part of a prophecy that could shape the future of the galaxy. You, Captain Graves, are the one who will either bring destruction or salvation to all." Alex frowned. "A prophecy? What do you mean?" Zalira's gaze never left him. "The Zelkarn have been watching your species for centuries. We have seen your potential, both for great harm and great good." "It is not a matter of technology or weapons, Captain. It is your ability to unite, to inspire others, that has the power to change everything." Alex's mind was racing. He had heard stories of prophecies and ancient galactic predictions, but this was different. This wasn't some old legend. This was real. He was part of something far bigger than he had ever imagined. The Queen raised her hand and pointed directly at Alex. Her fingers were long and graceful, but the gesture felt like a command. "You decide," she said, her voice clear and final. "You are the one who will shape the future." The weight of her words sank in, and Alex stood there, frozen. What did she mean? He was just a human, a captain in the Earth military. How could he possibly be the one to decide the fate of the galaxy? But before he could voice his doubts, Zalira turned and walked away. "Come," she called. "You have much to learn." Alex followed her, but his mind was still spinning. The universe had just opened up to him, and the possibilities were as terrifying as they were thrilling. The journey ahead would not be easy. The fate of the galaxy rested on his shoulders, and he had no idea what role he would play. All he knew was that in the end, humanity would be the deciding factor in the greatest conflict the galaxy had ever known. Captain Alex Graves walked through the corridors of the Zelkarn Palace, the weight of Queen Zalira's words echoing in his mind. "You decide." Those two words felt like a heavy burden on his shoulders, and every step he took in the alien palace made him feel more aware of the task ahead. He was part of a prophecy that held the future of the galaxy in its hands. But how could he, a mere human, decide the fate of so many? He was trained to follow orders, to lead his crew through difficult missions, but this was something far beyond his experience. Zalira had said that humanity had the potential for both great destruction and salvation, but he didn't understand how he, of all people, could play such a pivotal role. He wasn't even sure where to start. Zalira's voice brought him out of his thoughts. "Captain Graves, we have much to discuss." She was standing in front of an enormous holographic map, her fingers moving gracefully through the air as she manipulated the image. The map showed the galaxy, and countless star systems were marked in different colors, some with blinking dots indicating activity, others with jagged lines that signified danger or conflict. Alex approached the Queen cautiously, his mind still spinning. She turned to him, her expression calm but intense. "The Vorkar are coming," she said, her voice steady but filled with a sense of urgency. "They seek to destroy us, to destroy the galaxy as we know it, They are a race that believes in power above all else, and they will stop at nothing to claim the galaxy for themselves. Alex frowned. The Vorkar? Who are they? Zalara looked at him, her violet eyes piercing and full of ancient knowledge. The Vorkar were once a proud species, much like the Zelkarn, but their leaders became consumed with their lust for power. They turned on their own people, slaughtering anyone who dared to defy them. They conquered and destroyed world after world, bending other species to their will. Are they the ones who sent the signal? Alex asked, his curiosity piqued. No, Zalara replied. The signal was from us, the Zelkarn. We've been fighting the Vorkar for centuries, and we were hoping to reach out to a species that could help us in our struggle. We hoped humanity could be the answer. Your people have the ability to unite like no other species. That is why you are part of the prophecy! Alex felt a knot form in his stomach. He wasn't sure if he was ready for such a responsibility. But how can we fight them? How can I fight them? Zalara moved closer to him, her presence filling the space around them. You do not fight alone, Captain Graves. You will lead others, allies from across the galaxy. The galaxy has been divided for far too long. Species who hate each other, who have been at war for centuries, must now unite against a common enemy. That is where humanity comes in. You can unite the fractured worlds, bring them together, and lead them against the Vorkar. Alex shook his head slowly. But I'm just one man. How can I bring all these species together? Zalara placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch warm and reassuring. You may be just one man, Captain Graves, but you are not alone. The Zelkarn will stand with you, the Drakari, the Chardonnay, and others. They will follow you if you show them the path to unity. You must inspire them, just as you have inspired others before. Alex thought about the times he had led his crew through dangerous missions, the way he had always managed to keep them focused, even when things seemed impossible. He had always believed that the strength of a leader came from the ability to inspire those around him. But uniting entire species? That seemed like an impossible task. Your species has already begun to form the foundation for this unity, Zalara continued. You may not realize it, but you already possess the qualities that make you a leader in the eyes of the galaxy. The ability to empathize, to understand others, to see beyond the differences that divide us. These are the things that will make you a great leader. Alex swallowed hard. It was a lot to take in. A part of him wanted to run, to get back on his ship and escape from the overwhelming pressure of it all. But deep down, he knew there was no turning back. The future of the galaxy depended on what he did next. I don't know if I'm ready, he admitted quietly. Zalara's gaze softened.
No one is ever truly ready for such a responsibility, but that is why you must act now.
The Vorkar are already gathering their forces. Time is not on our side. Alex nodded slowly, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on him. He had always been good at taking risks, at stepping up when needed, but this felt different. This was a decision that could change the entire course of history. How do we begin? Alex asked, his voice steady despite the uncertainty that swirled inside him. Zalara smiled, a faint glimmer of hope in her eyes. We begin by uniting the galaxy's fractured peoples. You will travel to the Drakari, to the Chardonnay, to those who have been at war with each other for centuries. Your task is not just to fight, it is to convince them that there is more to gain from working together than from fighting. Alex took a deep breath and turned to look at the holographic map again. The stars and planets seemed to shift and swirl in the projection, and for a moment, he could see the vastness of the task before him. It wasn't just about fighting one enemy. It was about healing a galaxy that had been torn apart by centuries of war and distrust. He was going to need every ounce of courage, wisdom, and strength he had to bring these disparate species together.
We will need more than just words,
Alex said, his voice growing stronger.
We'll need action.
We'll need a show of strength? Something that proves we are serious about this? Zelira nodded. You are correct. Words alone will not be enough. That is why we must act quickly. The first step is to secure the Drakari. They are a fierce warrior species, but their hatred of the Vorkar runs deeper than their distrust of us. If we can unite them, others will follow. Alex nodded, determination rising within him. Then let's go. Let's show them that humanity is ready to lead. As they left the palace and headed toward the starport, Alex's mind was already racing with plans. He had always been a leader, but this was a different kind of leadership. It wasn't about leading a small crew through a dangerous mission. It was about leading an entire galaxy to war, and in doing so, he had to unite them, to show them that their differences could be overcome. He didn't know how he would do it, but for the first time since landing on this alien world, he felt something stirring within him. A sense of purpose. He wasn't just a captain anymore. He was the leader of something much larger than himself. And whatever it took, he was going to see this through. Captain Alex Graves stood in the middle of the bustling starport, his mind racing. He had just finished a meeting with Zelira and the senior leaders of the Zelkarn, planning the first steps in the great mission to unite the galaxy against the Vorkar. The enormity of the task ahead weighed heavily on his shoulders. The galaxy was not just a place of stars and planets. It was a web of conflicts, alliances, and rivalries that had persisted for centuries. Could he really convince the species of the galaxy to put aside their differences and fight together? But the prophecy, the one Zelira had spoken of, kept echoing in his mind. It wasn't just words. It felt like a call to action, a challenge he couldn't ignore. He had always been a soldier, always following orders. But now the fate of the galaxy rested on his shoulders. He wasn't just following orders anymore. He was the one making the decisions. He had to unite the galaxy, no matter the cost. The first step was clear. He needed to travel to the Drakari. They were one of the most powerful and war-hardened species in the galaxy. They had a fierce reputation and a history of violent conflict, not just with the Vorkar, but with nearly every other species they had encountered. To bring them to the table would be no small task. But Zelira had assured him that the Drakari's hatred for the Vorkar ran deeper than any distrust they had for the Zelkarn or humanity. It was their chance to bring a major player into the fold. Alex boarded the Celestial Voyager, the ship now fully equipped with the resources needed for a diplomatic mission of this magnitude. His crew was with him, though their role would be different than any mission they had ever undertaken. Instead of exploring, instead of fighting, they were about to embark on a journey of persuasion and unity. The Drakari homeworld was a harsh, unforgiving place. The planet was covered in jagged mountains, deep ravines, and dense forests. The Drakari themselves were built for survival in such an environment. Tall, broad-shouldered, with tough, scaled skin and eyes that seemed to see through the very walls of the ships they boarded. The Drakari's reputation as fierce warriors was not an exaggeration. They were not a species to be trifled with. Alex could feel the tension as they approached the Drakari system. His mind raced with the potential outcomes of this meeting. What if they rejected his offer? What if the Drakari, despite their hatred for the Vorkar, refused to join forces with the Zelkarn? He had to succeed. The success of the entire mission depended on it. As they entered the Drakari atmosphere, the sky above was dark and brooding. The clouds were thick with rain, and the winds howled like the screams of lost souls. The Celestial Voyager touched down in a clearing near a fortress-like structure. The landing was rough, but the ship held steady. Alex took a deep breath as he prepared to meet with the Drakari leaders. He wasn't alone. Zelira had insisted on accompanying him for this part of the mission. She was the one who could speak to the Drakari's leaders, the one who could understand the intricacies of their culture and history. Though the Zelkarn were known for their wisdom and diplomacy, Alex had learned that the Drakari respected strength above all else. He would need Zalira's calm and diplomatic presence, but he would also need to show the Drakari that humanity could stand toe-to-toe with them. The massive doors of the fortress slowly creaked open, revealing a dimly lit hallway. Alex and Zalira stepped forward, flanked by the Zelkarn soldiers who had accompanied them. The Drakari were not known for their hospitality, but they had agreed to meet, and that was something. The leaders of the Drakari, the Great Council, were waiting in a chamber at the heart of the fortress. Alex's eyes adjusted to the low light as they entered the room. The Drakari were seated on large stone thrones, their powerful forms casting long shadows in the dim glow. Their eyes locked onto Alex and Zalira as they entered, and for a moment there was a tense silence. The Drakari's expressions were unreadable, their faces as stoic as the stone thrones they sat upon. One of the leaders stood. His name was Karak, and he was known as the most feared warrior among the Drakari. His body was covered in battle scars, each one a testament to his strength. His eyes, however, were sharp and calculating. He regarded Alex with curiosity, but also with wariness. The Drakari respected strength, but they did not trust easily. "We have heard of you, human," Karak's voice was deep, like the rumble of thunder. "You come to our world with promises of an alliance, of peace, but the Drakari do not bow to anyone. We fight. We conquer. We do not need allies." Alex stepped forward, his voice steady. "I understand your pride, Karak, but this is not about bowing or conquering. This is about survival."
The Vorkar are coming. They will destroy everything in their path.
"If we do not unite, we will all fall. I am not asking for your submission.
I am asking for your strength. We can fight together, and we can win."
For a long moment, Karak said nothing. His gaze remained fixed on Alex. The air in the room grew thick with tension. The other Drakari leaders watched closely, their expressions unreadable. But Alex didn't back down. He had come this far, and he wasn't going to let his mission fail because of pride or old grudges. "We have fought alone for centuries." Karak finally spoke, his voice quieter but still full of power. "We do not trust outsiders, but the Vorkar are unlike any enemy we have faced. We know this. We have lost many warriors to their cruelty. Perhaps
There is value in your words." Alex felt a surge of hope, but he knew the battle wasn't won yet. "I'm not asking you to forget your past, Karak.
I'm asking you to look toward the future. We can end this war together.
the Vorkar's power is growing, but if we unite, we can stop them. We can bring peace to our people." The silence stretched on for a few more moments. Then Karak's gaze shifted to Zalira. She had remained quiet, allowing Alex to speak. The Drakari respected her, though they had never fully trusted the Zelkarn. After a long pause, Karak nodded slowly. "We will join you," he said, his voice firm. "But know this, the Drakari fight with strength. We will not be swayed by empty promises. We fight for our own survival. If you can prove that this alliance is worth our time, we will stand with you. But if you fail," Alex nodded, understanding the weight of Karak's words. The Drakari were warriors, and they would follow strength, not diplomacy alone. But this was a victory. The first step in uniting the galaxy had been taken.
I promise you, Karak, we will not fail, Alex said, his voice resolute. We will fight together, and we will win. The Drakari leader gave a slight nod, signaling the end of the meeting.
The room was still tense, but there was a sense of hope that hadn't been there before. The Drakari were not an easy people to convince, but they had agreed to join the fight. That was the first victory in what would be a long and difficult campaign. As Alex and Zalira left the fortress, the weight of the mission was beginning to feel less like a burden and more like a responsibility he could carry. He wasn't alone. The Drakari had joined them, and with them, the galaxy would begin to unite. but there was still so much to do. They had to reach out to the other species, to unite them all against the Vorkar. The journey ahead was uncertain, but Alex was no longer afraid. He had taken the first step. Now, there was no turning back. Alex stood on the bridge of the celestial Voyager, staring out into the vastness of space. The stars twinkled like distant beacons, each one representing a world full of life, hope, and dreams. The silence of space was both comforting and unsettling, reminding him that they were not just navigating through the cold emptiness between stars, but heading toward a galaxy on the brink of war. He had made it this far. The Drakari were now his allies, but the Vorkar threat still loomed large, and time was running out.
Captain Graves, we're approaching the Shardani system. Lieutenant Sarah Hayes, the communications officer, called from across the bridge.
Alex nodded, standing tall. Thank you, Lieutenant.
Prepare to make contact with the Shardani leaders.
The Shardani were a mysterious species, known for their powerful telepathic abilities. Their homeworld was a planet of floating islands, surrounded by clouds and mists. Despite their immense power, the Shardani had remained isolated from the galactic conflict, preferring to keep to themselves. But Alex had learned that their telepathic abilities made them incredibly sensitive to the emotions and intentions of others. If they were to be convinced to join the fight, they would need more than just words. They needed to feel the sincerity of the cause. The celestial Voyager entered the atmosphere of the Shardani homeworld. The planet below was an enchanting sight, with giant floating islands suspended in the sky, surrounded by layers of thick clouds. It was unlike any world Alex had ever seen. The beauty of the place made him wonder how a species so powerful could choose to remain hidden away from the rest of the galaxy. But as Elira had explained to him, the Shardani were a proud people, and their fear of outside influences had kept them isolated for centuries. It would not be easy to convince them to join the fight. The ship touched down gently, and Alex, Zalira, and their crew disembarked. They were met by a group of Shardani emissaries, their faces serene and unreadable. Their long, flowing robes gave them an almost ethereal appearance, and their eyes glowed faintly, as if they could see beyond the physical world. They spoke no words, but Alex could feel their presence, their minds probing his thoughts, sensing his intentions. It was clear they were powerful beings, capable of knowing more about him than he cared to share. One of the Shardani stepped forward, her voice echoing in Alex's mind rather than in his ears. "Human," she said, the sound of her thoughts resonating within his mind. "Why have you come to our world? We have no need for your war." "Your struggle is not ours." Alex took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. He had faced many difficult situations, but dealing with telepathic beings was unlike anything he had ever experienced. It was as if they could read every thought, every doubt, every fear, but he couldn't let that stop him. He had to stay focused. "We are not here to force you into our war," Alex replied, his voice steady. "We are here to ask for your help."
The Vorkar are coming. If we do not unite, we will all fall.
"We need your strength, your knowledge, and your power to stop them." The Shardani leader's eyes narrowed slightly, and for a moment, Alex thought they might refuse. "You ask for our help, but what do you offer in return?" she thought, her words sharp and direct.
"We offer you peace," Alex said, feeling the weight of his words.
"We offer you the chance to stand alongside us in the fight against the Vorkar. This is not just a war for humanity.
This is a fight for all of us. If the Vorkar succeed, they will destroy everything.
No species, no planet will be safe." There was a long pause, and Alex felt the Shardani probing his mind once again, searching for the truth of his words. He stood still, refusing to back down, even as the pressure of their telepathic presence seemed to increase. It was a test of his resolve, a test of his sincerity. He had faced physical battles, but this was different. This was a battle of wills, a test of trust. Finally, the Shardani leader stepped back, her expression unreadable. You speak of peace, but we have seen what peace has brought to this galaxy. War, death, destruction. She paused, and Alex could feel the weight of her words in his mind. What makes you think that we should trust you? That your cause is different? Alex swallowed hard, feeling the pressure of the moment. He had to make them believe. He had to make them see that this wasn't just another war. This was a fight for survival, for the future of every living being in the galaxy. But he also knew that simply telling them wasn't enough. They had to feel it.
I understand your hesitation, Alex said, his voice softening. You have every right to be wary.
But we're not asking you to fight for us. We're asking you to fight for the future. For your future. For the future of all species. We've already lost so much to the Vorkar. I've seen the destruction they leave behind.
I've seen whole worlds burn to the ground. We don't have much time left.
The Vorkar are already gathering their forces. But if we fight together, if we unite, we can stop them.
I believe that with everything I have.
There was a long pause. For a moment, Alex wondered if they would refuse, but then the Shardani leader's voice echoed in his mind again, softer this time. You speak with conviction, human. Perhaps you are right. Alex felt a surge of hope. We need you, he said simply, his voice full of sincerity.
We need your strength, your knowledge, your unity. Together, we can defeat the Vorkar.
Together, we can bring peace. The Shardani leader nodded, her expression softening. We will stand with you, Captain Graves. We will fight. Alex breathed a sigh of relief. He had done it. The Shardani, despite their doubts and fears, had agreed to join the fight. It was a victory, but it was only the beginning. There were still many species to convince, many battles to fight, but for the first time, Alex truly believed that they had a chance. The alliance was growing. They were stronger together. As Alex and Zalira returned to the Celestial Voyager, he couldn't help but feel a sense of hope rising within him. The Shardani had joined their cause, and with them, the galaxy would be a little closer to unity.
But they weren't finished yet.
There were still many worlds to visit, many leaders to persuade, and many dangers to face. The Vorkar were still out there, growing stronger with each passing day. But Alex knew that they were not alone. They had the Drakari, the Shardani, and the Zelkarn by their side. And humanity, for all its flaws, had proven that it could lead, it could unite, and it could fight for something greater than itself. The journey was far from over, but for the first time since he had set foot on this alien world, Alex felt a spark of hope. It wasn't just about surviving anymore. It was about winning, about bringing peace to the galaxy, and about ensuring that the future of every living being would be protected from the Vorkar's destructive reign. And as the stars stretched out before him, Alex made a promise to himself. No matter what it took, he would see this through. The galaxy depended on it.